This is the 2019 Math Kangaroo, levels 11-12, problem number 16. A positive integer n is called good if its largest divisor, excluding n, is equal to n minus 6. How many good positive integers are there? A, 1, B, 2, C, 3, D, 6, or E, 8. This is the problem as it originally appeared on the test. And here is where we will be doing the solution. To start, we know from the problem that we are looking for the number of integers n such that n's largest divisor, that is not n, is equal to n minus 6. This means we can write n as being n minus 6 times an integer x. Next, we can distribute the x's to get nx minus 6x is equal to n. We want to isolate n, so next we can subtract n from both sides and add 6x to both sides to get nx minus n is equal to 6x. Now we can factor out an n, and in the next step, we'll divide by x minus 1 on both sides to isolate n as 6x over x minus 1. Now we know that n is an integer, so it would be very helpful if we could write this fraction as being an integer plus a fraction. So looking at the numerator 6x, we can see that we can write this as 6x minus 6 plus 6, because writing it like this allows us to factor out a 6 to get 6 times the quantity of x minus 1 plus 6, which simplifies to 6 plus 6 over x minus 1. And this is very helpful because, again, we know that n is an integer. And this integer n is equal to 6, which is an integer, plus the fraction 6 over x minus 1. This means that the fraction 6 over x minus 1 must also be equal to an integer if n is an integer. So let's think, which values can x minus 1 have such that 6 over x minus 1 is an integer? Well, we know that we can have x minus 1 equal to 1, to 2, to 3, or to 6, right? Those are the divisors of 6. So let's start with x minus 1 being equal to 1. If we place 1 as the value x minus 1, we will get n being equal to 6 plus 6 over 1, which is 6, so 6 plus 6, which is 12. And in this case, n minus 6 is 12 minus 6, which is 6. Now let's look at the divisors of n to make sure that the largest divisor, that's not 12, is equal to n minus 6. And the divisors of n are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. So the largest divisor that's not n, so it's not 12, is 6. And this works out because we know that n minus 6 is equal to 6. Because the largest divisor that's not n is equal to n minus 6, 12 is a good number by our definition. So 12 is good. Now let's look at what happens when x minus 1 is equal to 2. So again, in this fraction, the denominator will be equal to 2. So we'll have 6 plus 6 over 2, which is 6 plus 3, which is 9. 9 minus 6 is 3. Now looking at the divisors of n, we have 1, 3, and 9. And the largest divisor that's not 9 is 3. And again, n minus 6 is also 3. So because n minus 6 is equal to the largest divisor that's not n, we know that 9 is also a good number by our definition. Now let's look at what happens when x minus 1 is equal to 3. Again, in the denominator, we'll be placing 3 for x minus 1. So we have 6 plus 6 over 3, which is 6 plus 2, which gives us a value of 8 for n. 8 minus 6 is 2. Now, if we look at the divisors of n, we know they're 1, 2, 4, and 8. The largest divisor that's not n, so it's not 8, is 4. But we notice that this value is not 4, it's 2. So this case does not work. 8 is not a good number. So let's get rid of it. Lastly, we have the case when x minus 1 is equal to 6. So we have 6 plus 6 over 6, which is 6 plus 1, which is 7. N is equal to 7 in this case. 7 minus 6 is equal to 1. And the divisors of n are 1 and 7. So the greatest divisor that's not 7 is 1. And 1 is equal to our n minus 6, which means that 7 is a good number. So we know that our only good positive integers are 7, 9, and 12. So we have 3 of them, which means that answer choice C is correct. Thank you so much for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe if you would like to see more videos.